Good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. What are you playing today? The Jim Hurst model Gallagher.
Imagine that.
Can't put it down, can you, brother?
No, doesn't get too far from me.
That's good, man.
What's up, Bruce?
Say hello to Miss Jean for me.
Will do.
I don't know if Al's going to make it or not. Al Wilmoth out there, and he's out there in your area too. He came to the concert there, Ross.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to make it. A couple other people I invited from out there, but I invited people all over, but everybody's busy. And the people around here, I was telling, Bill that everybody's going to church tonight. So tonight's night for them. Everybody, meaning the 4 people or 10 people or however many it was that that got the word. I put it in my newsletter and I had everything in my newsletter, and I go to see if anybody responded, and it's sitting in my outbox. The newsletter never left, and that's
wow.
Send. You have to agree to terms, and you have to agree that you're who you think you are, and you're not trying to fish anybody or spam anybody. And then you have to agree that this is only one time out of 10,000 this month that you're going to do this. And then send. Well, somehow or another I didn't hit send. So sorry about that, Bill. And he's muted, looks like. That's not the wildwood flower, it's a wildwood weed.
Is that the title track on your next CD?
You remember what was his name? Jim Stafford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A song called The Wildwood Weed. Had that kind of thing in there. Pretty cool. There's a live video of him doing it in some fancy place, and he's got a tux on. It just doesn't seem to work, but it's still a funny song. Countdown T-minus 2 minutes. So how many of y'all, while we're waiting, how many of y'all are familiar with fingerstyle guitar? Okay. Almost everybody. Good. Well, I'm going to start off as kind of like a basic kind of thing. I've got some things I want to say to you, and then we'll start working on some things. And if you have any requests or anything that you're wanting to know, me in particular, feel free.
Let me do a little intro.
Okay.
And then when we get cranking, turn your mics off, and if you have a question, turn your mic on. Okay? That sounds like there's a lull, and we'll make sure that we're talking over each other at the same time. That's always my favorite. Sit out. That's
yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for being part of the Long Island Bluegrass Festival workshop tent. Okay, and the weather's nice here. It's not raining, and I think we're gonna have a good day. So, or afternoon. If you guys have not already, please subscribe to the Babylon Arts Council, Babylon Citizens Council of the Arts YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications every time we go live for the next few weeks. Frank is playing bass with Josie Bello, and next Saturday we have Eastbound Freight playing at Sylvester Manor in Shelter Island. And last week's concert is up and Zoom meeting, and we're doing like a Zoom meeting conversation and performances. So the performances are pre-recorded, and the conversation looks very much like we're looking at right now. So in case you're in a business where you're doing a lot of Zoom meetings, and you probably don't want to do this at all. And usually I sit and I teach. I've been teaching online a whole bunch, and pretty much all you can see is like this, like just staring at nothing, Right. So I hope you don't have to stare at nothing. So anyway, the Babylon Citizens Council of the Arts is lucky to have gotten a grant from Suffolk County. So I'll read what I have here. The Long Island Bluegrass and Roots Music Festival is made possible by you. Your contributors will provide critical funding that help Baca continue the festival and support other cultural initiatives in our community. We can't keep the music playing without you. And essentially, I'll read the rest of it when you're all gone. I just read what Susan did. Next Wednesday, we have Don Sternberg playing bluegrass mandolin, even though he's an amazing jazz mandolinist. I'm sure he'll hear some cool jazz chords that nobody knows how he got them to happen. Like,
I don't know. I could like
this little squeezy thing he does with his fingers.
Yes.
Then we have Andy Falco the Wednesday after from, well, he's from Long Island, believe it or not. Andy Falco, fantastic guitarist, flat picker. And then for 2 weeks, so we have Joe Newberry doing an old time banjo workshop, and then after that we have songs and guitar workshop. He's gonna talk about his songs and what he's been doing. So I hope to see all of you then. I know I'll see Susan probably, and the rest of you. I hope you come too. Right, Terry? Okay, we're gonna have a conversation with Terry just briefly. How's California treating you, Terry?
It's so good.
So good. You're not in obviously a fire-prone area.
I'm not, but we had smoke here, but from my front door, I see the Pacific Ocean, so
That's nice.
that's good.
My cousin lives north of San Francisco, and every day he has to go out and shovel his driveway.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, he shovels ash off his driveway, which is pretty terrible. Anyway,
I miss you.
I miss you too, Terry. I'm glad you're here. So I'm going to play a little Jim Hurst in my living room with his Jim Hurst trio. So he has Nate Lee and Eric Alvar on bass. So Nate plays mandolin, and I love the sound of this mandolin. It's a Pava, I believe, and it's an A Pava. He had just gotten it, and it sounds awesome. So, and then Jim on his fancy Jim Hurst style guitar, right? Talk about your guitar quick.
Yeah.
What do you have, Jim?
Jim Hurst model Gallagher.
Is that the only one, the one you're carrying, or is there other ones?
I've got number 1 and number 2, and Ross on here, he's got number 4.
Okay,
And
nice.
you got number 6, don't you, Ross? Yeah.
4 and 6.
And my little brother's got number 3, and Kevin Russell in Sonoma County, California, he's got number 4.
Cool.
So we're supposed to have done 25 of them, but there was a break in the action, so we'll see if it resumes. I think it will. Signature series.
I'm gonna share. So this is Sitting on Top of the World. It happened at Blue Frog Studios living room area, and let me know if you can see that. I hope.
Yep.
Uh-oh, what's going on here? Oh, you can see it. I don't know. Something just happened.
Yep. I can see it.
Awesome. All right.
Who's that bulb?
It was in the spring, one sunny day, when my woman left me, long as she went away. Now she's gone, and I don't worry, because I'm sitting on top of the world. You don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree. Get out of my orchard, Lord, leave my peaches be. Now she's gone, but I don't worry, because I'm sitting on top of the world.
Yeah, man. I love,
Very nice.
I love that tune. Awesome.
Thank you. That's an old Mississippi Chic song.
Yeah.
Back,
Compton does a few of those, right?
huh?
Mike Compton does a few of those.
Yeah, his version of that is more like the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really great, man. My dad went to the 4 instead of the 5, so I incorporated the 4 chord.
Yeah, no, I like it. I love your version of it.
Thanks.
That was fun. What I love about that video
Yeah.
is while you're playing, you're looking at Chuck Moses. Chuck Moses is the other person that's doing production,
Yeah.
and he has a company called Viper Studios. So I dragged Chuck over. Actually, I think Chuck was homeless at the time. He was living in my basement, so I told him he had to go play. He had to be the cameraman. So he has one of those uh, cameras on a stick kind of thing, and like you do this look. You do this look at him like, what the hell are you doing? You're playing and you're like, oh God. He's like all the way over the top of you.
The truth be known, I was thinking, God, I hope I'm not drooling.
And we have a special video app for that. We took care
Do
of it.
you have filters for drool? You
Yeah,
have drool
Drool
filters?
filters. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to introduce Jim Hurst, and he's going to wow you with his awesome guitar skills. And when you leave here today at 9:30, you're going to be that much better player, right?
I hope
Okay.
you'll have more information to go.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And here we go. Jim Hurst, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Bill. And thanks for the Long Island Bluegrass Festival and Baca and all that.
Oops, I think I muted you by accident, Jim. Hold on. There we go. Ask to unmute. Hold on. All right, there you go. I think you're on.
Well, and so anyway, thanks, Bill, and thanks, Baca, and thanks, Long Island Bluegrass Festival and all. There's a lot of energy went toward doing this, and I am honored that you've asked me to be part of this. Thank you for that. Anybody have any burning questions about fingerstyle guitar before I get started with my spiel? Okay. Well, the version that you just saw me do is a mixture of a lot of different techniques. It's not classical, it's not flamenco, it's not two-handed tap, it's not false harmonics, and there's so many ways to play fingerstyle guitar. So when you say guitar workshop, fingerstyle workshop, in a general term, that's kind of it could be anything from soup to nuts. It can be open string, it can be different tunings. It can be using fancy capos. There's all ways to use the guitar in fingerstyle. My version of fingerstyle kind of begins with my dad played some fingerstyle, but it was mostly like Mother Maybelle Carter and Doc Watson and Elizabeth Cotton, where and so what that is, that's what I call the drag finger. It's Mother Maybelle Carter. She did a lot of that. She didn't do quite as much articulation like Doc Watson did, or even Elizabeth Cotton. She played Freight Train. And then, of course, Doc Watson. And Deep River Blues. Now, he didn't write that, but he made a version of the old Delmore Brothers Big River Blues. And so when he did that, I'm using 3 fingers and a thumb. I'm using index, middle, and ring finger and a thumb when I do it. Doc Watson did with 2. He did with 1 finger and a thumb. Now, he could do 3 finger, and he did that sometimes on banjo, probably more so than on guitar. Mother Maybelle Carter used 1 finger and 1 thumb. Elizabeth Cotton used her bass line was played with her fingers, and her melody was played with the thumb, which was backwards and upside down to what most players do. So there's people who use all 5, like Chet Atkins and so many, Andres Segovia, and the list goes on and on and on. You can use 4 fingers and a thumb. But I think for most intents and purposes, like around the Long Island Bluegrass Festival, a lot of American roots folk music and related, it's usually one finger, two fingers. A lot of folk guitar players will use sometimes two fingers and a thumb, sometimes three fingers and a thumb, and they typically put finger picks on their fingers. And there are some guitar players in the bluegrass field that will do that if they're wanting to sound like Earl Scruggs doing like Jimmy Brown, the Newsboy, or a song that, You Are My Flower, where he's playing banjo picks on guitar and he's got it capoed up and he's playing it like that. I tend to like the thumb pick and bare fingers because that's kind of what I saw Chet do when I first saw him, and Jerry Reed do that. Merle Travis did it. Doc Watson did it. And as far as I could tell early on anyway, Mother Mabel Carter had a naked finger. Later on, she put a finger pick on, but I think mostly she used finger picks for the auto harp she played. But I think it may have translated over to guitar because she wanted more volume on major stages, because after a while, she was like the legend, of Mother Mabel Carter. So with all that said, if you get the basics down, you can kind of morph that over into all kinds of different kinds of fingerstyle playing. So my attempts at fingerstyle guitar is based on the thumb kind of being independent, almost on automatic pilot or cruise control, while the fingers are doing more intricate things. And so it changes because you can do banjo rolls and you can do chordal things. Or you can do like you can do banjo rolls, you can do like what I call pitches. So I'm doubling up on the thumb. And you can also do a rhythmical thing where I'm using the hand as like percussive, like so. So there's many different ways to incorporate four fingers on a thumb. And I don't know how many of you do that and what versions you do, but I'm going to kind of go over some things. And as we go, I'll try to get a little bit more, I don't know, intermediate and advanced, maybe if there's an advanced players, if you guys are advanced players. But I want to read you a couple things that I kind of wrote up for this. So intro to fingerstyle guitar, I'll kind of go by this quickly. I talked about this already, but several disciplines from grassroots style to Mother Mabel, which includes Mother Mabel and Doc Watson and Elizabeth Cotton, to flamenco and classical and jazz, chordal voicings, different tunings like I mentioned before. And each one of these styles have different techniques and different disciplines. So like if you're playing classical guitar, you don't touch the top of the guitar. Matter of fact, you don't want to touch the guitar hardly at all. And you sit prone with your foot up on a little rest. And there's reasons for that, mostly due to tone and projection. But it's also very difficult to play that stuff. Flamenco guitar players are similar, but sometimes you'll see a flamenco guitar player playing and he's sitting in a bar or in a lounge chair or something. So you just never know. But each one of these styles takes a lot of discipline. You have to kind of break it down to basics and work your way back out. It's like if you've always played baseball, but you never took lessons with a coach. The coach is going to break down how you throw the ball, how you catch the ball, how you feel the grounder, how you hit, how you swing the bat, all that. So if you think about how you're going to approach your fingerstyle playing, you need to think from the basics out. Okay. So one of the best ways I know to get people to playing, and you guys can play along with me, all of this, because I think he's got all of you muted. So what I tend to, when I do one-on-one lessons, either person, in person or through Skype or through something like Zoom, I just kind of show you what I'm talking about. And it's up to you to take your notes. I don't know if this is being recorded, but I guess if it's on YouTube, you can find it there as well. But basically, you got to control the thumb. So the thumb on the right hand is the first thing that you need to figure out, and then the fingers come in later. But the one thing there's three things that bring guitar playing to music. One, it's the key that it's in. It's the chord shape that you're playing on guitar, which position. It's also having to do with what the melody is and what the style of the song is. And then how do you manifest your finger style playing to match your version of, or the original version of a song or a style. If you listen to Doc Watson, he does his way, the things he does his way. And similarly, Merle Travis does it, two Merles. Doc's son was named Merle, but Doc and Merle were both thumb style players that mostly played with one finger and one thumb. So if you watch the two of them play, they're completely different in the way it sounds, but the basics behind it is pretty well the same. And so if you think about it in those terms, then learning to do the basics is the best way forward. So one thing I will tell you is that the thumb normally plays like support on the bass side. So if you can just take your thumb, and I choose to use a thumb pick, you can do what you like, and just bounce your thumb on a downstroke on the sixth string. Now, what I want you to think about is putting your hand in a position to be able to play. So if I do this and I have my hand kind of awkward somehow or another, I'm not going to be able to get harder, get more difficult with that, or more inclusive of other things. So what I tend to do is kind of rest my fingertips on the top of the guitar just a little bit, because what I end up doing is when I'm playing Chet Atkins or Merle Travis or Jerry Reed, a lot of times my palm, the back side of the palm of my hand rests right here near the saddle and the bridge pins. So if I can get my hand in that position, but don't touch the strings, and I just hit my thumb on the downstroke, right? Now I'm going to go from the sixth string to the fourth string and do the same thing. Now it's important to be able to do the fifth string, sorry. It's important to do that on the fifth string because you're not on the sixth string. It's the one that's first. You'll hit it first as you come down. So being able to clear the sixth string and hit that fifth string without touching the sixth string is a difficult thing to do sometimes. And then morph right on down to the fourth string. And try not to hit any other strings. It's just singling out the fourth string. So in the key of natural keys, right, on a natural tuning of a guitar, the sixth string is E, the fifth string is A, the fourth string is D. But now we're not going to play those three strings in one key, because that doesn't work unless you're playing some sort of avant-garde jazz, which I don't even know if that happens. But so I'm going to start on the sixth string. Now I want you to do is I want to go one on the fifth, and one on the sixth, one on the fifth, and one on the sixth. And you can do it as slow as you want. We can slow it down here. Sound like a Johnny Cash tune, right? So in the key of E, this is actually the E note, and the A is the four chord. In the key of A, we would start on the A and hit A and then E. So that would be the 1 and the 5. So if you were a bass player in the key of A, that's the note you would be playing. Or you can put your hand up here and hold an E chord, and now you're going to hit E and B and E and B, which is sixth string, fourth string, while holding the E chord in the first position. Right? So that's your basic 2-note thumb, your alternate thumbing technique. So what most guitar players do, they'll do 3 bass lines. So it'd be, in the case of E, what I tend to do is go 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, which is root, root, 5, root. Root octave up, 5 octave up, root. That's a little fast, but that is a typical thumb pattern for a lot of folk-based guitar players that play fingerstyle. So now what I want you to do is think about that in the terms of a song. So if I'm going to play, let's see, I am a pilgrim, but a stranger, traveling through this gruesome land, right? So that's 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4. And when I go to A, I go 5, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4. So it's root, it's usually root 5, but in this case, I'm going root 5, 5, 5, root. In the key of E, it's root 5, 5, root. Sorry, it's root, root 5, root, root, root 5. Now, in the key of C, I'm going to go 5, 4, 6, 4. So that's C, E, G, E, C. That's root, third, 5, third, root. So all this pattern works with all kinds of chords, okay? Now, what do we do once we have that? Then we got to morph into something else. So the one thing you can do is just play rhythm with it. So let's go back to E. In this case, I'm using my first finger and I'm going down, up, down. Now, for those of you that like to wear finger picks, you're not gonna be able to do that because you'll fling that finger pick in the third row and put somebody's eye out. You don't want to do that. Okay, so, and you can see why I'm not a comedian, right? On a long, lonesome journey, I am going. Right? So that's the kind of idea. The other thing you can do is play single notes with that. So what I'm doing here is let me get closer. I guess not. Put this down a little bit. Okay, yours suck. I guess not. So I'm going 6, 1, 4, 1, 6. So my first finger is dedicated to the first string in this case. So I'm going 6, 4, 5, 4, 6 on bass. So I'm going 6, 1, 4, 1, 5, 5, 1, 4, 1, 6, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1. Once you get it kind of fluid and up to speed, it sounds pretty nice, I think. Now let's incorporate the middle finger with that. So one of the things you can do is practice your first finger. Again, holding your hand where you need to. Now, that's first string. Let's try second string. Third string. So now you got the idea of what it feels like to put your first finger in between the strings like your thumb was doing on the fifth string. Now, if we incorporate the middle finger, we're going to try to use that too. I'm doing it a little fast, guys, so just don't worry about playing it up to tempo just yet. And it may be too slow for some of you, I don't know. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate back and forth. That's with middle finger first on the first string. I'm going to do the first finger first on the B string on the second string. And then backwards. So if I play that bass line, and I'm going to play up the trebles. That's along with it. So every every time the thumb hits a note, one of the fingers hits a note. The other one is alternating. So there's all, and you can mix it up, you can mix and match, you can do unison here, and you can do alternating here, and you can do a little bit of both. Okay, so you get your trebles, your fingers, and you get your thumb working in the same way. Any questions about that? Raise your hand, and then Bill can unmute you. Okay, good.
I think anybody, I think you can mute. I think anybody can unmute themselves if they want.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
cool to say.
No questions. That's good. Either I'm boring as heck or I'm covering all the bases, which I hope it's the latter. All right, so now it's important to know that these basics are what gives you license to do other things. And Bill plays other instruments. He's a fiddle player. And let me tell you something, I don't think there's any other instrument known to man that needs more discipline and more practice than the fiddle or violin. And I don't know. You may agree, Bill, and if you don't, that's fine. But there are other instruments like the steel guitar, the double neck steel guitar. There's other instruments, but the fiddle is raw. It's right there. You don't have a bunch of tuning. You don't have a bunch of electronics. It's that. And if it sucks, it sucks. You know what I mean? So if you don't know how to use the bow,
Jim, I think with fiddle, I think more than anything, it just takes a real long time to get just even holding it correctly. And that's why we started so young, because the kids don't know any better.
yep.
You
You don't have any preconceived notions about what it's supposed to be like.
Pretty much.
And I'll tell you, I don't know if I told you the story, but I'll save it for another time. The only time I tried to learn how to play fiddle, and my little girl, she didn't much care for it. I'll tell you that someday. Anyway, I found out right then I ain't supposed to be a fiddle. I'm not supposed to be a fiddle player. So if you take that and you use those things in a simple song, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, or I Am a Pilgrim, or Freight Train, or something simple. Try not to play anything difficult, because the harder the song is to play with just one finger, it's going to be that much harder exponentially with more fingers and more action. So the easier the song, the better. A Tom Paxton song, anything that you can sing without having to recreate your vocal cords. Peter, Paul, and Mary, Mother Mabel Carter. A lot of things that Doc Watson did sounded difficult because he was so good and he did many things. But you can play a lot of simple songs with those patterns I just showed you. Okay, so now comes in, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to take these couple of techniques? How are we going to make a song out of this? How are we going to play a song? Well, the first thing to do is think about what song you want to do. Make it a simple one, like I said, and start playing the chords with your fingers in action. Try not to play the melody just yet, right? If there's a song you like to play, like, let's see if I can come up with one. Freight train on the tracks. Freight train gone too fast. I don't care what train I'm on, just as long as I am gone. I don't know the words. So if you think about that song, and that's one of the reasons I brought Elizabeth Cotton into this, not only was her style and technique unique, she taught herself how to play. Matter of fact, she taught herself in spite of the next door neighbor who didn't like it. So pretty simple melody, and you keep it slow. After you get that, then you can start adding more things to it. like upbeats, you know, and play syncopated things. You can play like that walking back. It's a similar thing that classical players will show their right hand technique for the treble work. It's also piano players will get their students to do those kind of things on the keys. And it sounds boring, but let me tell you something, guys. If you can get those basics together, you can start applying them to real world songs and ideas, and you can kind of start creating your own version of these things. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, that's really good. So what I want to do, let's play Freight Train. And what I'd like for you guys to do, I'm going to play one time through by myself. I mean, you guys can play along, play some chords, and then I'm going to play chords and you guys play with me, and you play as much of the melody as you can, play whatever you want to play. Of course, I can't hear you, and that's okay, but I'll just be your accompanist, whatever it is. I'll play with you. Okay. Let's do it a little slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna play rhythm to you. Freight train, freight train. Let's do a little faster. Okay, so that's kind of how I get. Some of my students are not very good at fingerstyle, so trying to get them from being a flat picker to fingerstyle is sometimes the lessons that I get to do. Otherwise, it's fingerstylists wanting to go to flat picking, which I get to do that sometimes too. Other times it's fingerstylists of a different type of discipline or technique that's looking to do more of what I do, which I borrowed mine from people like what I mentioned already, and Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed, which I can't do a lot of these, but I learned by listening and adapting the best I could. And then I've come up with my own things too. So part of my style also incorporates what I said earlier, like banjo rolls, which I, for a lack of a better term, it's using the forward roll and the backward roll or alternating rolls in order to make it sound as if there's a banjo in the room. So there's all kinds of ways of doing that. You can do that forward roll. You can do like a, in the case of most forward rolls, they wrap themselves around. So it's 3 notes over 4 beats usually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So it's triplet kind of thing. Isn't that the right term, Bill? I think it is. Anyway, so what you do is you can either follow it through. Or you can, what I call, put in a rocker step. So a forward roll is thumb 1, 2, thumb 1, 2, thumb 1, 2, thumb 1, 2. forward roll with a rocker step is thumb 1 2, thumb 1 2, thumb 1 2, thumb 2, thumb 1 2 1, thumb 1. Okay. Or, and what it does, it gets you back to the top of the measure one measure sooner. Now, there's alternating, which means I'm going to go thumb 1 2. So it's thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2. Now, the other thing you can do, now that's a little fast. Let me slow that down. That's all that is. The thumb hits the first finger. The thumb hits the middle finger. The thumb hits the first finger. Thumb hits in the middle finger. That's all that is. And it can be done in so many different ways, so many different timings. But simple is best at to start, to start with. The other thing that I can do with this is use my fingers as almost like a backbeat. So I'm using both fingers at the same time, and I'm doing what I call clip. Well, it's just alternating the thumb. So one thing I haven't talked about, which I do tend to do a lot of, is I usually use when I say usually, it's common for me to use the thumb on the sixth string only, and in this case, I've tuned my E string to D, so I'm going to play something in the key of D, and so I'll either go from the root on the sixth string to the root on the fourth string. That's a common thing in Piedmont blues and other things, Delta blues. Right, as opposed to, so instead of roots 4 6 4 in the key of D, which is D D A D, I'm just going D D D. So I'm basically just bouncing my thumb. Now, in that case, I'm going back to the alternating. Well, the preacher went out hunting. It was on one Sunday morning. It was against his religion, but he took a shotgun along. So I'm going. So it's 6 4 5 4 6 4 5 4. Now I can do. Well, the preacher he went out hunting. It was on one Sunday morning, and just thumb that same tempo, the same note value, just on one string. It's a little less information, and in this case on that song, to me, it's not. It doesn't help the song. It kind of pulls the song back. And so I also am taking my right hand and I'm kind of muting the bottom strings. So instead of going, I'm ever so slightly just dampening the strings with my palm. You feel that? And I'm using this part of my hand right here, the right below the first little finger, and it's laying kind of on the strings like this. And so, if you can see it here, it's like that. So I can't play it like that. I don't think. Let me see without dropping my guitar. Sorry. Can't do it. Sorry. But you get the idea. So that allows me then to control how loud the bass strings are compared to the trebles that I'm playing melody. So this is a kind of a self-mixing situation. Not only the tone and the volume of the string, but it's also the character of the string. I want to almost like an upright bass or maybe a kick drum as opposed to a piano note. So everybody's different, and there's times when I want every string to ring and I don't want any dampening. So that's more of a harp piano kind of style, whereas this is, it's almost like you can feel somebody dancing in their sock feet, or you can feel a kick drum playing along. Does that make sense? So all of these techniques can grow exponentially depending on what you want to take with you. What do you want your music to sound like? And for me, it's not only genre by genre and song by song, it's also in the song. There's times when the first part of the song needs to be a little subtler, a little more subtle than the peak of the song. So if you're reading a good book, it usually sets you up, and you go through a little hill and valley and a little hill and valley, and then the peak comes at the apex of the story of the book or whatever, and then it usually settles back down, or it leaves you wanting more or whatever. Depends on if it's a murder ballad in bluegrass or if it's some sort of love song in folk or whatever. So I like to kind of design my guitar playing mostly around the type of song it is, the genre that it's in, the story behind the song. If it's a funny throwaway, I call it throwaway song because it doesn't leave you in tears, nor does it make you angry or make you patriotic or make you want to run off and with your hair on fire naked in the woods. It's one of those songs, every song, if you're a creative person at all, you always, at least for me, I look for ways to encapsulate the song within me and my guitar. Because typically I'm playing as a solo artist. You saw me at the top of this with the Jim Hurst Trio, and even that, the songs on the JHT1 CD, each piece is handled a little bit different by the three of us than the piece before it and after it. And there's a reason for that, because some of them are word songs, some of them are tunes. And the tunes sometimes have a reason for being. Sometimes it's a subtle, real pretty song in tribute to my wife. Sometimes it's a kind of a raucous one because I'm coming out of New York City in the middle of the night and I'm tired and sleepy and I need something to keep me awake, and so the windshield wipers. So there's many different reasons for not only the material, but there's also many different reasons on how I approach it as a guitar player. To me, that's part of the creative process. Is you find a song that you want to do, whether it's an original by you or a friend of yours wrote it, or it's a cover song, or it's an old song from way back, or you're taking a song that's normally done at a church choir and you're making it a real simple kind of quiet etude or something. It's whatever you want to create it. And so the techniques that you use, if you gain techniques like fingerstyle techniques in this case, those techniques will allow you more latitude and how you want to purvey those songs to the listener. And I will say this, we're most of us, or at least some of us, are musicians first, but we might be doing some other job to help pay the bills. I know a lot of people that do that. I'm one of the few that I'm going to work now because the music business has kind of slowed down because of COVID. So I've actually got a job now, but I'm okay with that. So everybody's going about their music business different. I'm up until March, I was a full-time musician, and that's pretty much what I did. I was in the studio recording for myself. I was helping other people either by recording on their projects, or I was helping to produce, or I'm a songwriter and somebody recorded one of my songs. So the creative for me is a way for me to I call it playing dress up with my G.I. Joe. You know, I get to dress this song up the way I want to, and not only that, I get to pick who gets to play on it. You know, I can, if it's my song and if it's my CD that I'm recording, my project, I can pick whatever musicians I want and which instruments. Maybe I want 2 fiddles instead of 1. Maybe I want 3 fiddles. Maybe I want it to be a trip fiddle thing. Maybe I don't want banjo on this one, but the next one I do. So all of these things goes into the creative. And so the creative then allows me to share that bit of what I call creativity, and some other people might call it junk, but you know, what they say, one man's junk is another man's treasure. I like to reveal my own thoughts about creative, not only through the lyrics and the song and the arrangement, but also through the technique in my guitar. And so as I'm playing the song, my techniques allow me then to bring the guitar into play. And it gives the guitar a bigger voice and a little bit more to say if I want it to. But I can also keep it down to where the capsule of the guitar is less than the lyric or whatever. I'll play a little bit of a song that I didn't write, but a friend of mine wrote, Randy Barrett from DC Bluegrass Union. I'm going naked thumb here because I don't want the clack of the thumb pick. Richmond Safford walked these fields and woods. He was a little bitty boy and the times were good. Everyone loved him, it was plain to see. He was a blessed child, just meant to be. A little bit more activity. He grew tall, strong, and lean. Right there is where I bring in the first strong bass line. It's the 5 chord, the A note. He grew strong, tall, and lean. But when the heavens rumbled and the winds got mean, it shook all the horses and the chickens ran amok. All hell came down and the lightning struck. Anyway, it builds and builds. And so I start out with this wispy kind of almost like a memory, because the song is written about a true story of a young lad that died at 14 years old named Richmond Safford up in Vermont. And Randy's mother told him about the story. Randy went up there and saw the grave and wrote the song about it. So the song itself is what I'm doing. I'm not trying to impress people with my guitar playing at this moment. I'm just trying to get the guitar to help me to illuminate the solemnness of the song and the quietness of finding the gravesite. And then as the song builds and there's a certain place where his mother finds her child after lightning struck him and he's dead in the field. And so there's a little bit more of guitar there, a little bit more of, I don't want to say crescendo because it doesn't ever get to that point, but you get my drift. I'm kind of belaboring the point, I think. So my technique in that case is no thumb pick. And in the case, it starts off with just a D note and the melody line. let it ring. That's it. And in my artistic decisions, I thought that's all we need. I want to get people from the song before was a little bit more of a not so solemn. So I'm bringing them back from the song they heard before in the CD to this song or in the set of live music. So I hope that answered, hope that's clear enough for you. And you can do that with any song. You can figure out how to brighten it. You can figure out how to be minimal. You can figure out how to make it raucous and as much guitar as you can give them. And there's all kinds of reasons to do all of that. So your techniques is what's going to let you be able to have more latitude and more choices in how you present your music. And that happens on all instruments. But in the case of a bluegrass band or a jazz trio or quartet, or, of course, a Dixieland jazz band, you have to decide how low you can go and how high you can go. So if I'm in a 6-piece bluegrass band, there's only so much downward dynamics that I can go to because there's 6 people. And in most bluegrass bands, there's at least a fiddle, if not a dobro and a banjo. And there's usually 1, 2, 3 vocalists, sometimes 4, upright bass, a mandolin, guitar. So you gotta be careful about how far down you think you're going to get with that, unless it's just one guitar and some vocals around for a gospel tune. Also is the case if I'm by myself and I'm doing a solo show, which I do a lot, I can't get to be a marching band or a 6-piece bluegrass band or a jazz ensemble. It's not going to happen. So I have to figure out where my dynamic range flows. And so that's part of the fun too. So in that is my techniques. It's also in my decision making as to how far can I take this or how minimal can I go. And I play in other bands. I play with Claire Lynch Band. I played with my trio. I've also played with the David Grisman Folk Jazz Trio. I've also played in his Bluegrass Experience and also in his sextet, David, the dog music. So each one of those aspects take on a different role for me. So at this point, I think I've said pretty much what I want to say. Well, except for this. There are times when I want to play a song, but in the key that we're going to do it in, it's not comfortable to play fingerstyle in B flat without using a capo. So I'll use a capo in a couple of different places. I'm free with capos. Let me tell you something. My dad used to call them cheaters, but they're actually a tool. I try to play in first position as much as I can, but again, I'm going to be a little bit subordinate to the song and the environment I'm playing in. Also in the creative, am I playing this in an open position or if I'm playing in a capo position? So if I'm going to play in B flat, I can either play B flat or I can capo up. Now, those of you that use capos, you know already that there's plenty of ways to use it. One way to do it is to capo in each position. So in the key of B flat, I'm going to just raise my capo to the first fret, and now I'm playing out the A shape. That gives me the A shape and a lot of open strings in that way. If I go up one more step or 2 more frets, then I've got G. There's different sounds, different. And if I go on down, it's more of an E thing. I go down to B flat here. So it depends on the flavor that I want to do. So knowing my positions, whether I'm using capo, open tunings, or what have you, knowing my positions and then knowing my techniques will allow me, again, some more freedom to be able to play with other bands. If I know they're going to be playing in open tuning, maybe I will play in an open tuning, or maybe I stay in standard tuning and capo and give them some contrast, right? So a lot of things that I do, like that, sitting on top of the world, my dad did it without playing fingerstyle. He played, it was in the spring, one sunny day, when my woman left me and she went away. Now she's gone and I don't worry, cause I'm sitting on top of the world. So that's what he played. It was bluegrass style in the key of G. Well, it happens to fit my voice in the key of G, but I want to play finger style. So it doesn't, I put my capo up on the 3rd fret and I played out of E. And that then gives me a little bit more support on the bottom end, which we had talked about. It was in the spring, one sunny day. Anyway, you get my drift. So with that said, I'll open the floor to any questions or any kind of, special requests, or I mean, I don't mean tune wise, but I mean technique wise. Anybody got something? Nothing?
Well, in that tune,
What?
in the tune, the one you're just playing.
Yeah, sitting on top of the
I
world.
listened to it a few dozen times. I mixed it, so the you use a bunch of different variations that you were probably talking about throughout your workshop, right?
Right,
But some of it is like more like boom chuck, and then sometimes you're rolling, right?
right.
So like kind of just like show us each variation that you're doing. Is it a variation, or is it you very specifically doing that during that tune?
Well, now, that's a good question. Good question, Bill. Thank you. In my mind, I'm thinking, first of all, the mandolin is chopping. The bass player is doing root fifth, whatever he's doing, right? He's doing different things, but mostly one note, one note, one note. And so the mandolin's going. And so I'm there, in this case, in the trio, mostly, I'm there to carry the chordal value. And so I've got to kind of keep some sort of triad of a chord, or at least some semblance of a chord. It was in the spring, one sunny day, when my woman left me and she went away. Now she's gone. So that's a bunch of grabbing strings here. But I don't worry, because I'm sitting on top of the world. So basically, I'm going back and forth from playing a certain boom drop thumb, what I call. That's called Kentucky drop thumb fingerstyle. Two. I'm adding some clips as opposed to. It's like chord, 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 chord. And so that's just a but I'm holding a chord while I'm doing it. So that's banjo roll. So I'm doing that, hammering on the 6th string. So I'm kind of letting my thumb go on automatic pilot or cruise control. So the thumb can just kind of lay on that sixth string and I can play all kinds of different things with it. Because for one, I've got Eric playing pretty much a full set of bass notes. So he's playing root fifth, he's walking me to the four, he's coming out of the five. And so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about the rhythm so much because Nate has got the chop. And he's also throwing in a little bit of offbeat here and there. He don't want to do too much because I feel Nate always handled the position a little less aggressive than what he might with a duet or something, because he knows that I'm kind of doing a lot on guitar, more so than a bluegrass guitar would do, because I'm doing fingerstyle and more different things. Not that
But also, as a my opinion is Nate plays or thinks like a fiddle player.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I think he's like a lot of walking in and out.
Yeah.
You know, whereas a mandolin player might play more mandolin-y licks, you know.
Yeah, and I think he's probably approaching it also as like a snare.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing my thing. Eric's got the kick and he's got the bass, and I'm doing my thing. He's going.
Because my impression of the tune is that it would have flown just as well without them or with them. You know what I mean? Like what you were doing was pretty much you were almost had everything covered. You know, that's what I find impressive is like, you know, when you play by yourself, it's like, you know, it's like listening to basically a full band because you're keeping all the movement going within, you know, within the lines, especially since your thumb is always going dum 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 dum, you know.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bill. I mean, honestly, I work on that because I know when people come to see me, they don't expect to see a full band. Although I will tell you, the first year, maybe couple of years that I did the solo thing, I'm going, this is going to suck. They're going to wish they had Missy Range on bass, or they wish they had a band. And so what I've done is I've tried to not make it raucous necessarily, but not make it too boring too often. And my wife is good. You know, she was really instrumental, pardon the pun. She doesn't play any music, but she was instrumental in saying, okay, well, you're trying too hard, or that seems a little empty, or whatever. And so I think that helped. But you know, it is that my technique, because I sometimes mostly play by myself, that's developed into this kind of a full spectrum thing more so than not. And then playing with Eric and Nate, man, that was a dream. It was, you know, Eric is a phenomenal bass player. He also plays guitar and he plays you know, mandolin, he plays, you know, different instruments and stuff. And Nate's the same way. He's playing with Becky Buller right now. He's playing fiddle and guitar and mandolin, and he's killing it. So I was able to work with a couple of young guys. And if you added both of their ages together, they were still younger than me, which is kind of shocking, really. But they were really fun to play with. But what I liked about it too, Bill, was that they wanted to kind of stay in their zip code. They were there to play with me, but they were also there to give me room and each other room. And I did the same thing to them. And I think it kind of worked to do this, at least you know, in most cases anyhow. But that's a good point. Any other questions, Bill or anybody?
Sure, I'll pipe in.
Okay,
I play with all of my fingers.
good.
How come you don't incorporate more fingers?
Probably laziness.
Oh,
Because, well, you know, I don't know about you, but my little finger's substantially shorter than the rest of them.
mine too.
Well, then I don't have that excuse then. I also don't use my nails. I use my fingertips. And a lot of times I'm using that little finger as a post so I can get other things going.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably mostly, and I've listened to Chet and Lenny Bro, Andres Segovia, and so many others use four fingers and a thumb. And that is phenomenal, but it takes a long time to me to get that efficient with that extra finger because I didn't start early enough. If I was to start it now, it would probably screw me up more than not. But I wouldn't tell you not to do that. I think it's great if you can do that.
well, I don't do it well, but if there's something that I want to play and
Yeah.
my other fingers are being used,
Right.
I just use it.
Well, I think that's great. You know, Chris Dealey, you know, when he's playing mandolin, he goes, okay, that's 25%, each one of those of 100%. And if you don't use that little finger, that's 75% of what would be 100%.
Right.
So, yeah, and so I totally get it. And I should be using this one, but I just don't.
Okay. I
Good
didn't know if there was a reason. And I guess to use it as a post is a good reason.
Yeah, I do. I use it probably more of a post than not. A lot of times well, like I said, I've got my hand on the bridge a lot. But I'm also doing rhythm things, and it's, it doesn't really have a function there either. So I don't know. I don't guess there's a real reason not to use it for me, other than the fact I just never worked on it.
Hmm.
So don't do as I do, do as I say. That comes from the parent side of me. Anybody else got a question? Okay, so here's what I'd like for you to do. I don't know that I have anything else to offer you at this point on fingerstyle guitar, except for try to use it a little more often than you do. But what I would really sincerely suggest to you is to take, I have a couple of things that I'll share with you before I get to that point. I teach lessons, and I also do workshops like this one. I do weekend camps and week-long camps. And one of my favorite things to say is there's 5 things. There's time spent, there's dedicated time, there's focus, theory of relativity, and playing. So all 5 of these things to me matter. So time spent. If you spend time cooking, you'll probably be a good cook. If you spend time gardening, you'll probably be a good gardener. If you're a mechanic, whatever, airplane pilot, if you survive the first half a dozen landings, you're probably going to be a better pilot. But also, time spent is you have your instrument in your hand. That's time spent. Dedicated time is you're only doing that. I've got a couple of friends of mine that takes lessons from here and there, once in a while, and they're both retired, and they're good guys. But half the time when I'm at their house, they got the guitar beside the chair, and they're watching the football game or the baseball game or whatever, and they got the guitar in their hand, and they're not doing either one of them very good. They're not really paying attention to the show if they're playing guitar, and they're not playing guitar very well if they're paying attention to the show. But they do have the instrument in their hands, so there's a positive. But what I mean by dedicated time, meaning when you have the guitar in your hands, when you're going to practice, only do that. Only dedicate the time to your guitar or whatever instrument. And with fiddle, you probably need to do it twice as much. But anyway, and then there's focus. So you got time spent, you're going to spend time with your guitar. Dedicated time, I mean, that's all you're going to do. Focus means I'm going to take that time with my guitar and I'm going to focus on what I'm going to work on. So my suggestion is to take the hour, if you're going to practice an hour, and split it into 10-minute segments. The first 10-minute segment, you're going to work on rolls on your right hand. Second 10-minute segment, you're going to work on playing C chord in as many places as you can. Third one is scales. Fourth one is single string exercises. The fifth one can be, I don't know, diminished chords all over the neck, and then change half step and do those. Another one may be work on particular melody and just work on the melody. And then, I try to take 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after to play something I like, and then wipe my guitar up and put it down. That's kind of what I do. So if you do that, so the focus is whatever that 10-minute segment is. This is my opinion. So if you're going to focus on a certain technique, or you're going to focus on how that technique fits a song, that's 10 minutes. You're going to work only on that in a dedicated time focused situation. Theory of relativity is how you understand not only the technique you're doing, but how does that apply to the guitar neck, and what your relativity to what you play on the guitar has to do with 4 things: what you like, what you don't, what you know, and what you don't. You're not going to spend too much time on something that you don't like because you don't really know it. So you're going to really spend most of your time on things that you like and things that you like that you don't know how to do. So you're going to learn things that you like, and you're going to play things you like. So if you spend that time, dedicated time, theory of relativity, it's going to grow with you. But don't rest on your laurels. Figure out a way to keep yourself growing. So there's a couple of different publications. There's the Fretboard Logic, and there's also the caged theory. There's also all kinds of publications, digital and otherwise, about fingerstyle technique, how to hold a pick. There's so much out there on the internet nowadays that you can find anything you want. But what you want to do is keep yourself growing. So what I do is I have a list beside my desk. I don't have it right here, but it's in my bag. But I keep a list, and when I think I need to work on something, I write it on that list. And when I do my rehearsal, my practice time, it's in the list. So as I go down the 6-10 minute segments, if I don't get to it, it's the next, whenever I get to it, I'll work on that for 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, I move on. And my thought about that is that your brain will help you to rationalize and understand. Your relativity will grow when you're not doing the task that you've been working on. And I know that to be a fact for me because I've learned how to play something in my sleep. So everybody has a brain, and that brain is really powerful. So I think also that if you remove yourself from beating your brain into submission about one technique, move to something else, then the next time you come to it, I think you'll have a little bit better of an understanding, a little bit more of a natural ability to pick it up a little quicker. That's my opinion, and you're entitled to it. So with that said, as you work through these different techniques, think about what it is you're trying to accomplish. Make it easy on yourself. And I would say record yourself often. Record yourself audio wise for sure. I do every lesson. I've got a little dictaphone, and I bought it Target or Best Buy or somewhere for like 30, I think it was 40 bucks. And it's a little Olympus digital dictaphone thing. And it's got a little USB port. I put it right in my computer and download what I've done. I can edit it, I can delete it, I can keep it in a folder, I can subdivide the files, whatever I want to do. So I use that, and I set it on the desk, and I just practice. And then when I also use it on live shows sometimes, and it actually does really good. It's amazing how good a quality it is for a $40 recorder. So that's one thing I do. Also videotape yourself. And the reason I say that is because when I was watching the trio play Sitting on Top of the World and Bill's video, which they did a great job editing, and it sounds great. I saw me do things that I didn't want to do, but I did it. So I'm going to learn from that. But you only you know what you intend to do and what you don't want to do. Everybody else that's watching you, they don't know that. So you can't really go out behind the shed and get out the Acme butt kicking machine and go pulling on the handle. You need to use it as a remedial kind of, let's grow with this thing. So as you record yourself and you watch yourself back, don't beat yourself up. Look at what you're doing and go, okay, I didn't want to do that, but I did it. So I'm going to work on not doing it. Or I meant to do something and I didn't do it. So that's all learning ability. And make notes. If you feel like that what you did on this rehearsal today, your practice time today. Now, practice is what you're going to do to work on you. Rehearsal is what you're going to do to get ready for a performance or to go to band practice. That's what your rehearsal time is for, okay? But practice time is working on the things of you. I guess I'm cutting my head off here. That's the time when you work on your shortcomings and remedial actions to try to make yourself a better player. And also for me, I can be self-deprecating a lot. So I listen back to myself sometimes, just see if I did it this time. My wife says, you know what? You're insulting everybody that bought a ticket when you tell everybody, hey, I'm glad you showed up. I didn't think he's going to come or whatever, me trying to be funny and try to, I don't know, I guess I want pity or something. I don't know what it is, but my wife says, you know what? You're insulting everybody when you do that. So it helps me to think, don't self-deprecate. And so don't beat yourself up too much when you see yourself in a video, but use it for learning. Okay. Use it for making yourself better. The only other thing I would say is try not to get too fancy too quick. Try these different techniques. Find a song that you already know and try a couple of different techniques that we talked about. After you work on them without playing a song, work on them to get a handle on. My dad used to say, get a handhold. In other words, you got to be able to hold the shovel right before you can do any work, right? So make sure that you understand how the technique works. And also get comfortable enough with it that when you go to apply it to something else, you don't get confused because you don't really know the technique. The technique is technique just for general purpose. It's not like you're learning technique to do a recital on classical guitar of Beethoven's Fifth or something. So that's a different kind of technique. It's a technique that you'll use. It's like if you're going to make a flower arrangement, if the only thing you did was baby's breath and daisies and roses, it's going to get boring. You're going to get bored. And if you decide to substitute something out, you're going to put maybe a pansy in there and an orchid. And instead of baby's breath, maybe you use something green. And the next thing you know, you've got more techniques, and you'll find that colors work different. And, that's that kind of thing. So, in the same thing with guitar technique, there may be a time when a certain technique works on this song every time, but there's times I don't want to do it. So I'll find another technique and substitute. Even if I only substitute one piece of that song, that one performance, at least it gives me some sort of other way to express myself. And, sky's the limit in a way, especially if it's you in your bedroom or in your office or your den or your recording studio or wherever you are, out in the park on a bench or sitting beside the river, whatever. It's you, and who cares? I mean, it's you expressing yourself. And the more you do that, the more you get comfortable with that, the more you can do that kind of on the fly in front of folks. Dr. John says you don't practice in front of the audience. And I think that's true. I do think that's true. However, some of my favorite performances, and one of my favorites is Tony Rice at the Station Inn. He had his Tony Rice unit there, and I was sitting in the front row right in front of Tony. And then in walks Bela Fleck, Sam Bush, and Mark O'Connor, I think. There were 3 or 4 of them walked in, Jerry Douglas. And after that, Tony Rice just took off the gloves and went after things. And he probably made more mistakes. Of course, he never makes a mistake. So he made probably 3 mistakes just because he was going after things that he hadn't done before. But he was excited, and he knew how to do this stuff. Now, whether or not it came off perfectly or not, and if Tony was listening back to it, we would have went, I don't like that. But the rest of us were thrilled. So, just keep that in mind. It is an art form, and it is expressive art. But it is something that you need to kind of take a little bit serious enough to where you work on techniques and things like that. And I'm available email. I have a website. I also have Facebook pages, and I also have a newsletter if you want to sign up for that. And I'll probably be joining you guys in some of these concerts that Becca is doing in Long Island Bluegrass Festival, and Bill and all you guys. So I want to thank you all for supporting this. I think this is a really wonderful thing. I wish we'd have had more people here tonight, but I'll tell you all, like I told Bill earlier, I had it written in my newsletter that went out, I think it was Sunday. Well, I was sitting down and wrote it Sunday. That's when I wanted to send it out. I think it was Sunday. It was either Saturday night or Sunday. And last week. And so when Bill contacted me, it was, what was it, a week or maybe 2 weeks before this date. And I told him, I said, well, I'll get this in my newsletter. I was getting ready to send my newsletter as it was. So I wasn't getting any response. And I thought, well, what the heck? So I went on to, because with my website as where I send my newsletter, I can go on and see how many people opened the newsletter, how many of them didn't. And some of that is false information, because if they don't download the graphics, it doesn't show up, but as a click. But I can see from how many people clicked on links and things through my newsletter. And of course, nobody did. And I went, well, I wonder what that is. So I go over there, and I didn't send it. I have to agree to terms and all these other things. And so by the time I think I got things together, I find out I really don't.
It's all right, Jim. I would have been nervous if too many people are here. This is the first one we're doing, and I appreciate you doing it with us. This is our growing pains, learning how to do this, and
Yeah.
our last performance went well, but again, I have the editing down and the music part down, and making everybody sound good, but the hosting part was a little nerve-wracking last time. I did okay, Susan. I didn't watch it, but
No, absolutely. You did great.
I was definitely a little bit,
Good.
Why don't Jim? We have like a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
Pick your favorite tune and your guitar tune or something like that, and just wow us, and then we'll say goodbye after that.
All right. Does anybody have any requests?
No, it has to be your favorite one. Your
My favorite one.
Yeah.
This week's favorite one.
Well, let's see. That's a good one. Let's see.
While Jim's tuning, thank you if I don't know who you are, thank you so much for coming. If I do know who you are, thank you so much for coming. I think this is going to get posted to the Babylon Citizens Council of the Arts YouTube page. It's being streamed right now, but I don't know if it'll get saved. I think it will. But anyway, I hope it is, because I've heard words of wisdom from Jim Hurst twice now, and that last part is good. Sit down, shut up, and practice is basically what Jim says. But he's very nice about it. He takes a long time to say it, and he's very like, this is what you have to do. But sit down, shut up, and practice is basically all you need. You could use that next time, Jim.
You know the guy named, there's a guy in Minnesota, guitar player and a teacher. His name is Adam Granger. Do you know him?
No, I
He
don't.
said, man, he's been doing workshops and everything, and people say, man, how do you get so good? He goes, there's one answer. Just what you have to do is practice, right? So he made a song. Is that how do you get to Carnegie Hall? You practice. All you have to do, son, practice. It's a really good tune. Thanks, Bill, for having
Yeah,
me.
no problem. Thanks for doing this.
Sure. That's called.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
Have a good night.
Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
Bluegrass Festival 2020. That was my highlight right there. Thanks, man.
So far. Yay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Need to move to Setauket. Come hang out here. Definitely need
will.
more guitar players.
When my wife gets tired of being with me after the COVID thing, I'll come up and visit.
Okay, thanks.
Guys, have a good one. Good to see you, Ross, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Bye. leave. It is.
All right, I'll try to see if I can save this, Susan. Nice
Okay.
to meet you, Ross. Bruce Barry, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Barry.
Where is he? Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Terry, how you doing?
I think Terry had to leave, fortunately.
She's still there.
I know she said she had to go. She's just sitting. Her computer's on, but she's not there.
She left her beautiful face in our
Yes.
feed.
Anyway, it's good to see you all. I'm gonna figure out how to end this.